And we're back with the final video out of 11. If you've stuck with us this long, congrats. If it was a 10-hour video, I think you'd be scaring off some people. So, yeah, splitting up is useful. Anyway, so just finishing out with the warrior cards. Now, warrior at the moment has two different archetypes. Patron and control, which got beaten out by patron, but it still exists. So, the question is, what does the set add to each of them? First things first, bolster, 2 mana, give your taunt minions +2/+2. What?
Yeah, I think with this set they're definitely trying to introduce a taunt warrior archetype.
It's just so
But
random.
yeah, the cards that they're introducing for it aren't quite good enough. Not that bolster isn't good enough. Bolster is good enough if a taunt archetype were to exist and be good.
But it just
Problem,
doesn't.
yeah, the problem is it won't exist and it won't be good if
What's
when it's played.
And you can't play this just to affect one guy because Mark of the Wild is bad and
Right.
it's a worse Mark of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh, Funnily enough, I actually think Varian adds the most to a taunt warrior.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I don't like bolster that much. Maybe it's good, but it depends on the decks as opposed to the card.
Yeah.
Arena, no.
No, absolutely not.
Too situational. 3 mana 3/3. Orgrimmar Aspirant. Inspire. Give your weapon +1 attack. Arena, yes. Constructed, no way.
Yeah, constructed, no. Not that the Inspire effect is particularly bad. It's just a problem with Inspire in and of itself.
Also,
Yeah.
it's like you're hero powering to gain life to give your weapon attack, and you have to play a 3 mana 3/3.
Doesn't quite work.
It
It
just
doesn't
doesn't.
quite.
Alright, we're not a good start here. Bash. 3 mana, deal 3 damage, gain 3 armor. Hey, they put Penance back in the game. For anyone who hasn't been playing since the dawn of time, Penance was basically a priest card that dealt 3 damage and restored 3 life. Now it's removed because Drain Life was a direct worse version of it. No one ever played Drain Life, and people played Penance, and Priest was the worst class in the game. Blizzard was really bad at developing back then. Anyway, the main point is they've come quite far. I actually don't like this card, and the reason I don't like it is because Hero Power Shield Slam does almost the same thing, but Shield Slam only costs 1 mana when you already have armor, and it can hit harder, and you have shield block. And you have Fire War Axe. It just feels so unnecessary.
Yeah, you have Fire War Axe. This falls right in between your War Axe and Death Bite turns. It doesn't. You don't need this. You don't need to have a spell that does 3 damage. That's a bit overkill. And like I understand you may not want to use Shield Slam on, say, your opponent's Knife Juggler, but
So you're gonna add more cards into your deck to compensate.
right, yeah, it doesn't quite fit. It doesn't. This is definitely a control card. There's no question about it. The problem is that the Control Warrior list is relatively tight.
It's a psychology boost against Knife Jugglers.
Yeah, it's a relatively tight list, and this card's not going to. If Cleave can't make it in, then Bash can't make it in.
Exactly. Arena-wise, though, I like this card. Deal 3 damage, gain some life. Yep, sure, take it. Anyway, Alexstrasza's Champion. 2 mana, 2/3, rare, Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and charge. So it's a 3/3 charge. Now, I don't like this card. The reason I don't like it is because it's a 2-drop, which means you're not going to be playing this in turn 2 with charge most of the time because you want to mulligan away your dragons, not keep them. The only exception is you're running like the 4-drop dragons, like 4-4-drop dragons or something. And the problem with that is Dragon Warriors traditionally have been control warriors that run the Dragon win conditions for Blackwing Corruptor. That's it. The Fire Elemental Blackwing. And that's why they run the Dragon win conditions. And Alexstrasza's Champion does not fit into that deck at all. So you need to build some new Dragon Warrior that's better than the other one.
Yeah, you need to find a way to make some mid-range dragon deck worthy of playing, and I have a hard time believing that deck won't just be strictly worse.
I also have a hard time believing that deck would be better than Dragon Paladin, or even Mage.
Yeah.
Or even Priest. Priest gets the 2/4 with taunt, and I don't think that would trigger half the time anyway.
Like that kind of deck would only see play if you're playing a best of 5 conquest and you want to bring 3 dragon decks and one of them isn't Dragon Warrior, but you want to declare Warrior. That's
I
It's not,
sure.
no, it's not
All right. In arena, 2/3 for 2 possible. Every so often it will be a 3/3 charge, but not that often.
right.
All right. Sparring partner, another 2-drop. 2 mana 3/2 with taunt. Battlecry, give a minion taunt. What? This is the weirdest Sun Fury Protector I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not. Again, this is another one of those taunt warrior cards, and this card is an example. It gives credence to the earlier point that taunt warrior is not going to be a thing.
It's just a bad Sun Fury, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. That's one reason why is because Sun Fury Protector is in the game and better than this. In arena, it's difficult. I mean, this card is no better than existing 3/2s. And the reason why is because in arena, in the early game, every minion has taunt.
Basically, yeah. So, I mean, it's good. It's a 2-drop with some relevance late game, so I'll take it. But a lot of 2-drops have relevance late game.
Right. The best use that this card is ever going to see in constructed now would be synergies with Black Knight. Pretty much it.
Yeah, you can give other minions taunt on their side. Yeah, that's about it. It's like Mark of the Wild combo, but even then that wasn't very good. So, sure. Anyway, King's Defender, 3 mana, 3/2 Battlecry. If you have a minion with taunt, it's a 3/3 weapon. Worst Fire War Axe ever.
Yeah.
This is an awful weapon, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not good enough, especially because it falls between Fire War Axe and Deathbite. So, and both weapons you'd rather have equipped than this one.
Yep,
So play the Fire War Axe, you'll hit it over 2 turns, and then on turn 4 you equip the Deathbite. You never play King's Defender. You don't need to. And you're running 4 of those weapons. You're not going to find room to fit in King's Defender at all. You'd have to replace one of them.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, if there's any lag on the audio, it's because Skype is misbehaving.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it. We checked the internet on both sides, it's fine, it's actually Skype. But anyway, King's Defender in Arena, I'll take it if I don't have very many weapons. Sure, it's a Eagle Horn Bow, that might be a 3/3 sometimes in the later game, I'll take it. Constructed, this is not good.
Yeah, in Arena you're not going to pass up good enough weapons.
Exactly.
This is good enough.
Alright, Magnetar Alpha, 4 mana, 5/3 epic. Also damages the minions next to whoever this attacks, or he attacks. Now, this was Foe Reaper's effect. Foe Reaper saw 0 play. This is now Magnetar Alpha's effect. This will see no play. Therefore, next set, it's going to be on a rare.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, the reason Reaper doesn't see play is because of the abundance of legendaries that you'd rather have than it, but not because the card in and of itself is bad. This card is bad. A 4 mana 5/3 is not worth this effect.
I love that. It's just like the transition. This card is just awful.
Yeah.
It's a bad card. 5/3 stats are terrible.
Yeah, like I'm not even willing to put this in the same conversation as Foe Reaper because that's doing injustice to Foe Reaper.
Yeah, it's bad. Nothing else to say. Arena.
Yeah, in Arena, it having 3 health is definitely a tremendous drawback. But in Arena, at least the effect is worth much more.
It is. Also, I mean, Foe Reaper has been called the mother of all bombs sometimes in Arena. It just wrecks everything. You'd be amazed how powerful that card is compared to even some of the really big legendaries in that format. But yeah, Magnetar Alpha, I'll pick it over some of the epics, that's for sure. It's not atrocious. I'm not going to feel horrible if I pick this, but I'm definitely not going to be very happy. It's good enough to see play in Arena, but awful and constructed. Sea Reaver, 6 mana, 6/7. Whenever you draw this, deal 1 damage to your minions. Now this is supposed to synergize with warrior stuff. The problem I have with this is that it's random, which means most of the time this is going to hit nothing. Half of the time, most of the time, it's going to hit nothing. Some of the time, it's going to help you, and some of the time, it's going to screw you over. And it's on a Boulder Fist Ogre. I deem this unplayable and constructed.
It only hits your minions.
Yep.
That's the biggest part of it, right? Because like, what does this card scream to you that it fits in? Patron Warrior, but it's a 6 mana minion, right? It doesn't quite work because Patron Warrior does not suffer from ways to induce whirlwind effects on their board.
Yeah.
And especially not when you can't choose when it happens.
Yeah. It's gonna screw you sometimes.
So then what are you playing this in? In a deck with a lot of enrage? How many enrage cards are actually good, right? And then on top of that, the only benefit that this card truly gives you, the only reason that any control warrior would play with this is if that control warrior wanted to run battle rage. But then how many minions are you having on your board to hit battle rage on anyway?
It's also random when it happens.
And it's random, so you don't even get to choose to have it. Like you need to top deck it on a board with like 2 or 3 minions on it for it to be worth, and it's ridiculous.
It's just too much of a. It's like it's also on a Boulder Fist Ogre stats. It's just not good enough. And now in Arena, sure, I actually prefer having Boulder Fist in my deck than this.
Absolutely, yeah. In Arena, this effect is absolutely detrimental.
It is an epic, which means that its pick order goes up a bit because a lot of epics are awful in Arena. Right. But it's worse than Boulder Fist Ogre, that's for sure. You will never have the option to pick a Boulder Fist over this, but the point is I'd rather have a Boulder Fist than this.
Yeah, it's still maybe second tier epic in Arena. Simply because of its stats, but yeah, but not to be forgotten. This effect is definitely a complete drawback.
Yep, we are currently 0 for 8. Okay, Bolster best card so far. Oh, never mind. Varian Win, 10 mana, 7/7. Battlecry, draw 3 cards. Put any minions drawn directly onto the battlefield. This is the most ridiculous thing you can do for 10 mana in the game, I think.
This card is bonkers.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The fact a lot of people seem to forget, like people saying it's like, oh, what happens if you don't hit any minions? Well, you drew 3 cards.
Yeah. Yes. And it now this is a 7/7, so it does get BGH, but it being 10 mana means BGH was probably played already.
It was probably played already, and also it can get like an Alexstrasza off the draw or another big minion. Probably about 50% of the time you'll get a big minion as well, depending on what you've already played and things like that and how you drew. But you're like a lot of people saying it's like, oh, you want the Alexstrasza effect. Not if I just play 15 attack and 15 health that can't be BGH'd in one for 10 mana and drew 2 other cards.
Yeah, and also this also really helps some of Warrior's weaker matchups, right? Because what does Warrior suffer against right now? Control Warrior specifically, Druids,
Paladin, Druids, and will be Shaman.
Shaman, but and also lately, over the past couple of months or so, Handlock, the way Handlock's it's also a pretty strong counter to Control Warrior. Now, this helps all of those matchups, each and every single one of those matchups. I mean, obviously, Equality Consecration is still a thing to be worried about, but at least for the other 3, those decks can't handle this. They can't handle you even getting 1 minion off of it, as long as it's big. It's tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Paladin can easily deal with it, that's for sure. Shaman's going to have some issues, but you do have a window where if you get lucky with your variant, you have a window where you have to kill him. Because if you don't kill him in the next 2 turns, he will deal with the board and you're going to lose. But against Paladin, it doesn't improve that much. Against Druid, you basically win the game automatically. Now, I made the joke earlier that this would help taunt Warrior the most. Yeah, putting in your Sludge Belchers with Variant is actually very, very good.
Yes, absolutely.
So the card is amazing. It's on the same level as I think Priest, Shaman, Warrior, and Druid all got absurdly powerful legendaries. If I had to rank them, it's so hard. On paper, I think the strongest is probably Varian.
I
No, that's not even true. I think the strongest is, I think, Aviana is the most bonkers in theory.
Yeah, I think the druid one is the strongest, and I think that the priest is also ahead of this one, but marginally.
It's random is the only. I mean, they're both random, but one of them, at least one of them, draws you cards in your deck. I think Mistcall. I think you might be underestimating Mistcall's value a bit there.
I think I am, but then yeah, we're also again dealing with negligibles. These cards are all-
Exactly, like they're all insane.
people like one thing that people will definitely say is you can also get Cruel Taskmaster, you can get Armor Smith. One thing that you need to recognize is that mulligans happen for a reason, right? So you're mulliganing for those small drops, like Armor Smith, and depending on what you're facing, Cruel Taskmaster, which means that it's much more likely that you get bigger cards. Now, the Control Warrior deck does run a lot of spells and a lot of weapons,
Yeah.
but all you need to do is hit one other legendary.
Although it's actually not as much. Like I remember talking to people and it's just like, oh, you have like 10 minions in your deck. In reality, it's more like, honestly, it's between 15 and 19 for a lot of builds that I was looking at. They run a lot more minions than I think a lot of people realize. A lot of those are Armor Smith and things like that, but I'm not going to complain if I get a free Armor Smith. And I also draw some cards. It's not good, but I'm not going to complain about it. The other thing is, like, a lot of people seem to forget that you do have cards like Sylvanas and things in your deck, which are not the big legendaries, but are mid-tier in terms of size, and actually still have a very, very large impact if you get them for free.
Yeah, and now the thing is though is that like yeah, so the battle cries off of some of those minions like Shield Maiden and Alexstrasza, those battle cries are not worth them being played for 9 mana from your hand when you can get those minions for free.
Exactly.
Or 6 mana from your hand when you can get that minion on the board for free. Uh, uh, so you can't overrate those effects.
Think about it this way. If you play Varian, you get Alexstrasza, and they're on 30 life, which is probably a high estimate, very high estimate. They're probably going to be on like 20, realistically. So Alexstrasza, at best case scenario, will deal 15 damage. Or you could just attack with both and deal 15 damage.
Yeah. Yeah, the upside of this card is definitely worth the drawback of those scenarios where you just simply draw 3 cards.
Even some of them...
And maybe drop a Cruel Taskmaster,
A lot
right?
of people
Like,
said getting Grom was bad, but I don't even think that's true. You get to kill something with Grom, and then you get a 10 attack creature on the board.
Yeah, and even if you don't kill something, you just hit him in the face for 4, and you'll be alright. Like, you'll be fine.
Grom is surprisingly hard to kill.
Yeah, it's a 4/9. Like,
They have to enrage him and BGH him, but then there's a variant on the board.
yeah.
This is when you play against a rogue who goes BGH, Shadow Step. Just keeps using Big Game Hunter. I actually want to see this. I want to see that one rogue who goes like BGH, Shadow Step, BGH, Shadow Step, Vanish. It's like completely annihilating the Control Warrior. That'd be quite funny.
Yeah,
Anyway.
one more to consider though is also Control Warriors. One thing that they suffer with is card draw, right? Like Control Warriors are running Acolyte of Pain of all things, right? So they do suffer with card draw. Variant helps out a lot. How often do you find yourself in these games against, like, again, Handlock is a perfect example. How does the Handlock win? You run out of things. The Handlock has a full hand, and then they just value out the rest of the game unless you can hit your Harrison Jones on their Drax, right? That's your only chance of winning it.
Like Shaman, like Paladin and Shaman win similar ways as well. Like a lot of people seem to think that they both win because your opponent can't stop your damage. To be honest, no. I played for about 2 months when Control Warrior was really popular before BRM. I played just Paladin and Shaman mid-range decks, and almost every game against Warrior was either going to Fatigue or Close, and I would always win those games. Because, honestly, Fatigue would do more damage than I did. Simply because they just ran out of resources. Now, resources in deck is not helped by Variant, but the point is that, as I said, you get a couple turns of advantage where you can try and kill them before they can respond.
Yeah, it gives you... It gets you back into games that you would have otherwise lost, and that is what you want out of a legendary.
It gives you an opportunity to win a bad matchup, and that is good enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Alright, so that is the entire set. So, power level wise, it's not as bad as BRM, but I think there's honestly,
I
there's
think
15 good cards in the entire set.
I think though that this is a welcome addition to the game,
It is,
right?
yes.
Yeah, because I think that though there aren't that many there aren't that many good cards in a vacuum. I think that this deck, not this deck, this set gives rise to certain types of decks that are still going to use those underpowered cards simply for synergies. And also, you don't want a set to be introduced who completely turns the game over on its head either. Like you say, so
Yeah, that's
you
true.
definitely need, yeah, you definitely need sets like this to drop that changes it enough to make it interesting, while not completely changing the game for those who are A, still familiarizing themselves with the game, or B, don't are still building their collections. You know, they don't want the game to completely change on them, and then they have to completely reevaluate everything.
That is true. Now, on the other side of things, this set has done something GVG failed to do, which is that all the powerful cards are legendaries.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Yeah.
funny. GVG. One of GVG's shortcomings was that it probably made Blizzard very little money because there's like 3 good legendaries in the whole set, and the rest are like commons.
Mm.
It was, oh my god. I remember opening like 50 GVG packs and having every card I needed.
So wait, a quick interesting point of note now: the Nerubian that comes out of Ambush is specifically a rogue token. It's not the neutral Nerubian.
Why?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, we need fancy Nerubians.
Yeah.
We don't like your common Nerubians. They come out of eggs, we get ambushing Nerubians.
Yeah.
Have you seen our Nerubians? They bounce our own guys. Oh, rogue Nerubians suck. Anyway, thank you for watching this ridiculously long set review with me and the Lineman. Thank you for joining me on this insane recording adventure.
Anytime there's a new set. Anytime.
Adventure recording is a lot easier. Yeah, we're doing these massive set reviews. It takes a while. It's taken us, I think, what, 3-4 days to record all these.
The time to help things, but
Yeah, time zones. Yeah, normally I do this in like 1, maybe 2 days, but time zones definitely mess things up. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and as usual, if you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or want to yell at either of us, put it in the comment section below. But as for now, this is Jotto and Lineman, signing off for, well, this entire set.